And now starting with our first segment for today. As we mentioned in the very beginning, we're going to bring you more about Siwa. Siwa is one of the beautiful places here in Egypt to visit and to spend a vacation. Many beautiful touristic sites and historical sites as well are located in Siwa. In addition, of course, to the Harvest Festival that takes place in Siwa every year. We're going to bring you more about Siwa and more about the Harvest Festival. But first of all, allow me to welcome my guest for today, Egyptologist, Mr. Samir Abbass. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Samir. First, before talking about the harvesting season or anything, just shed light on the historical background of Siwa.
So Siwa, first of all, it lies in the western Egyptian desert. And if we can look at the map, which is number 1, which is showing the exact location of Siwa.
So we need to show the map of Siwa now.
If possible. If it is, I grouped many illustrations and maps and photos with me today. Many of these photos has been taken by me in my last visit during the Harvest Festival, that is the highlight of our, the icon of our topic today. So Siwa is one of the most remote oases in Egypt. It's closer to the Libyan borders than to the Egyptian desert. It lies in the western Egyptian desert, as you can see in the map, in the very far west of the Egyptian desert. Siwa oasis has a very unique character. Not only because of the location, it's also because of the people living there. We will come to the history after that, because the people there, they are Berbers, Amazigh tribes, very much related to other tribes in North Africa, northwest of Africa.
So they are not Bedouins?
No, they are not classified. There is Bedouins actually living there, but the native people of the oasis, they are Amazigh, and they are speaking a different language. The Arabic language is not their first language there. The Siwan, Berber, Amazigh language is their first language. It's very much like the Nubians in South Egypt. They have their own language as well, and they speak Arabic as a second language. And Siwa, another interesting fact about Siwa, it has a huge amount of water, like over 100 springs, natural springs, and with artificial springs as well, with date palms trees. The oasis itself is like 80 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide, which is a huge area. A huge depression on the land, on the Egyptian western desert. It is almost 16 meters below the sea level, and that's why there's lots of springs there. So there is no problem with the water anywhere in Siwa. And that's why there is an extensive plantation, especially the date palms. There is almost 500,000 date palms and few like 70 or 80,000 olive trees, with population estimated as much as 30,000 people.
But of course, before we talk about the festival, still I want to ask about the important sites in Siwa, because I know over there it is the largest governorate. It has many historical sites and history as well.
In the history of Siwa, there is an evidence that there is a human inhabitation in Siwa as early as 10,000 BC. That's like 12,000 years ago. But in recorded history, we have a very famous incidents happens in the oasis. For example, Alexander visit to Siwa and his army that was as early as the 4th century BC, 2,300 years ago. A Persian army of 50,000. That's still a debate about that. You know, they were about to invade the oasis and they get lost in the Great Sand Sea, which is all around the oasis there. There is important historical attraction. There is the Mountain of the Dead, which is house the tombs of the rich leaders of the oasis as early as 2,600 years ago. That's during the ancient Egyptian pharaoh time. And when you go there, it is very much decoration, very much like what you see in the Valley of the Kings and other temples and tombs in ancient Egypt. So apart from the beauty of the oasis and the natural beauty, I mean, the palm trees, the water, the springs, the desert around, the peaceful atmosphere, and the friendly people there. Apart from that, there is a very important historical attractions there. Alexander Temple there, the Mountain of the Dead, Agormi, and on the top list, Shali, the old town, the medieval town, fortress of Siwa.
So moving to the harvesting season and the festival. So can you tell us more information
sure. You know,
about
so
it?
before going in this subject, I would like to show some photos actually, which is I brought with me.
Yes.
On the screen here, there is some. I think that's Alexander Temple.
This is the
This
temple of
Alexander
Alexander.
Temple, and in the photo number 2, you can see the fortress, the old fortress, the medieval fortress of Siwa, which is called Shali. There is also a good view of Alexander Temple, which is in the illustration at the picture number 5. So. Jumping to our main topic.
I think this is the Shali, I think.
Yes, this is Shali, you know, and the unique thing about Shali, Shali, by the way, is a Siwan word, means the town. And that was built of a unique building material, salt blocks. There is salt everywhere around the lakes in Siwa, and there is many lakes in Siwa, by the way. And the traditional way of building in Siwa is collecting these salt blocks from the shore of the lake and put them together using a mud used as a cement. So the point is there is no rain, hardly it rains in Siwa. But when it rains, this salt block dissolves and destroys houses there. And that is the reason why this fortress has been abandoned. That's after a heavy rain causing the collapse of many of the houses. So today they have a different building codes. But some of the ecology, there is very famous ones, which is difficult to mention the name, I know, here, but there is famous ones which is worldwide recognized, built only from salt blocks and muds in Siwa. So Siwa today is not only a place because of its historical attractions. It is a place of meditation and place of escapeness of many, not just the Egyptians, there's lots of foreigners. There is a great number of expats living there. And there is people coming from a far distance.
So you said that there's a great number of expats living?
Yes, not a great, it's a significant number of expats living in Siwa.
What are they doing there? Are they working?
That's a very good question, you know. So, there is an internet in Siwa. And if you have an internet and you have a business you can operate online, you can live in any place around the world and operate your business.
Yes.
And there is a significant numbers of foreigners. They found that there is a very peaceful and friendly atmosphere in Siwa, which is make it a better life for them and keeping their business working as well. So, and that's a kind of tourism, by the way, which is Egypt is still affordable. Compare with other places around the world, it is still less expensive.
I think this is the most important part about Siwa, that usually the holiday makers, they prefer to go over there if they are seeking for nature, for calm atmosphere, ecology. It is completely different, and this is one of the new trends or the highly recommended trends when it comes to tourism so far.
The only disadvantage we have it here is the trip. The trip is very long to make it there. If you are coming from Cairo, that will be, today is like 10 to 12 hours driving. There is new roads, which is when it will be finished, it will be slightly shorter. But there is an airport there, it is a military airport. And there is talks about using the airport for domestic flights. That will make a big difference there. So talking about the festival. So the festival, it's held annually, almost every year it's held at the end of the harvest season. The harvest season for the dates, at the end of October, in the autumn, and that's why the festival is held in the 3 moonlights, nights after the harvest season.
So the harvest season is the old harvest season, or there is a harvest season in Siwa these days, really?
It's already the harvest the harvest festival this year was held in the beginning of November, this month.
Yeah.
And that is decided like every year by the tribes there. The importance of this festival, the festival is almost...
It's a historical festival?
Yes, it has a great importance because there is different tribes in Siwa. There is almost 13 tribes and divided into 2 groups, the Eastern and the Westerns. And unfortunately, there was a time that when the Eastern and Westerns, they had a clash and dispute, and that's resulted into a civil war. So the harvest season had a great role which helps greatly in putting an end of these conflicts more than 180 years ago. And that it was really a very bloody war there. It was, the news attracted the attention of one of the famous heads of the tribes in Sidi Barrani. Sidi Barrani is close to Mars Matruh, east of Mars Matruh on the coast. And he traveled the whole distance, more than 180 years ago, from his village to Siwa in order to help building peace, reconciliation between the different tribes. He comes in Bakrur Mountain, and I think that I have the picture number 13, the photo number 13.
Yes,
that's one of the highlights of Siwa, Bakrur Mountain. He comes in Bakrur Mountain. He had a very strong religious Muslim backgrounds, and he did his best to approach the different tribes and to bring them together and have a peace together and live in harmony together, have a reconciliation between the different tribes. It took a long time, but he managed to do it at the end, and in a way to confirm this peace treaty between the tribes, they gather the families.
Yes, this is the number 13.
That's the Bakrur Mountain, which is the center of this festival. The festival, the Harvest Festival, held every year in the same location, where this man, his name is Sheikh Madani, by the way, where this man, he came for the first when he arrived in Siwa. And so to confirm this peace treaty between them, they had a meal. They had a meal. They cooked, they camped together for 3 nights. They were cooking and eating together at the end of the harvest season. A very simple meal, bread, tomato, onion, and sauce, and sometimes put meat on it. And when they sit together without any differentiation between the different families, different tribes, that's how to confirm, and they have to remind themselves every year with that they are all one family by doing that. That is the greatest importance of this festival, which is giving a great examples of how to solve political conflicts in a small society like that, using the local traditions, and how to make sure that no fights will happen between them again. And that's why I brought lots of photos with me, which is I took it myself when I attended the festival this year. It was a great, one of the my best visits to see.
What do they do exactly during the festival?
So, in day one, they cook in the camp, and they cook. So let's imagine that you are attending the festivals, and I will tell you, like in the day, what exactly happens. In the morning, they serve breakfast, and the breakfast normally is a heavy meal, and those who are camping around the mountain. So during the noon, they make a mass cooking, and I think that there is a good photos, which is like the photo number 8 and the photos number 11 and 11A. 8, 11, and 11A.
Yes.
So these photos, which shows the mass cooking in a big pots, they cook for a big number of groups, which is they gather people from the different families. They gather together in the huge space in the plain of the mountain, on the base of the mountain, and after at noon. So the cooking started around 9. If sometimes they sacrifice like a camel. Sometimes they sacrifice a camel. I think, yes, here's the picture I'm talking about. Sometimes they sacrifice a camel and they add like meat to the meal. But if there is no meat, still the meal is going. And after cooking, they start serving these meals in big plates to the big. You can see that in 11, photo number 11 and 11A, to the big crowd which is camping in the plain. I think that I have some photos here which is showing how big the gathering could be. And look at the number 12.
Yes,
for
we can
example.
see it on air, some of the pictures.
Yes, number 12
the
as
big
well.
Plates,
so they sit in circles and they eat together, which is very much like the photos number 17 and 18. So they sit in circles and eat together. So that's around noon time. Then they pray together in the afternoon, or Asr pray, and after that they held Hadra. Hadra is a word for religious chanting. Start with the recitation of the Quran, and then they sing religious songs together. It's a very, very emotional way. And in the evening there is a dinner, and followed by religious chanting again. And that is the big Hadra, which is held in the evening. And you can tell by looking at the photo number 12 and the photo number 21 of how big these Hadra, or how big these chanting and groups could be.
So to what extent this festival is considered an example of peace and reconciliation?
It's a great extent. You know, it's it's giving a very good example of there is two teams. They were fighting against each other, butchering each other for a long time, and now they are in peace together for more than 180 years. And every year this peace, every year the differences between them dissolves into each other, and they don't identify themselves like as Eastern and Westerns anymore. So it gave a good example of using the local traditions and how to solve such problems, which is normally it works even better than rules and regulations in such communities. It's not these communities, and there is many of these communities in Egypt. It's not. They respect much more their tribal rules and regulations more than.
I was just going to ask you about the rules and regulations. Definitely, they have their own rules and they have their own way of managing their life.
Definitely, and they were practicing that over 1,000 of years, and without a way of reinforcing the rules and regulations, they get more respected than any other rules. So these events or this example can help in giving solutions, not only in Egypt, in many other similar tribes or similar situations all over the Middle East, which is they have traditions, and we can use these traditions in putting a peace between them. And I think that the Middle East needs such efforts today.
So do tourists and Egyptians participate in these festivals? Did you see tourists when you were there?
That's a very good question. So these festivals is for the Siwan.
Yes.
They welcome people to come to visit, but it's mainly a Siwan thing.
They don't allow others to enter.
No, they allow. So
yes.
myself, I'm not a Siwan,
yes.
but I'm traveling in Siwa for more than 15 years now, so I have lots of friends there. But even if people would like to come and visit, yes, they can. They are welcome, but there is some certain rules and regulations they have to consider. And that's, thanks for asking this question, because there is practice which is made by tourists, whatever they are, Egyptians or foreigners, which is not going along well with the traditions. And that's something which I suggested among the leaders of this festival this year, of training a group of young Siwan, well educated, and their responsibility was to help people to understand about the festival and give them a practical information of how to behave. For example, myself, I like to take photographing, yes. And I found that there is many photographers, but they was very, very nosy. They are putting themselves in the wrong places just to take the good picture, and that was annoying. So I found there is some tourists, which is they have been as a group, and they came and they were not dressing a proper clothes, and that is mainly a religious event there,
yes.
And that wasn't right. So even some Egyptian tourists who came and grouped around the prayer circles and were shooting and taking selfie with them in the backgrounds, and that is not a proper way. So they welcome people to come and attend, but the people, they need to understand the nature of these events and how to behave.
What are more historical sites that we can talk about? I know, as we mentioned, the Core Mount, for example, and I know the Shali, but definitely we have some more places to visit, even in the desert as well.
Yes, that's a good point, actually.
The desert is one
more
of the
places,
most fascinating deserts.
So we talk about some historical attraction there, but the springs, the water springs, there is many of these springs around, and these springs had a medical effects, a good positive medical effects, like Cleopatra Spring, and that is photo number 3, and that is the most famous. It's for the Siwan called Juba, or the Sun Spring, by the way. I don't think that there is any connection with Cleopatra actually being there in Siwa, but it's one of the most important springs and destination there. The desert around Siwa is the gate to the Great Sand Sea. Look at the dunes in the photo number 4. Beautiful dunes. Is having going just 20 minutes drive outside of the oasis. You will find yourself in the middle of a unique, beautiful landscape, nothing like in any other desert around the world. So there is lots of things. And
what about camping in the desert over there?
In the old days, we used to do long trips and with few nights camping in the desert, but today's yes, we still can do campings, but like for one night, and that will be in a camp close to the oasis. That is the place which is people permitted to camp in, but still beautiful. And close to Siwa, by the way, there is another small oasis, hardly visited, known as Gara Oasis, which might deserve another episode. to talk about if we don't have
because
enough
it has
time.
to do also with the therapeutical tourism and being buried in the sand and something like this. It used to be very famous.
That's another thing, that's another thing when it comes to Siwa oasis, which is the sand bathing, and that's common in the summertime, and that's became very popular destination for that. So there is lots of advantages when it comes to Siwa, and myself, when I have time, and I don't hesitate to go there. It's a very peaceful place. Even I visited this place many times before, still enjoying the peace there.
So, do you think that we need more investors to go to these areas and build more hotels, more services for tourists and things of that sort?
Thanks, Rasha, for this question, because investment is important, but it should be wise investments. So Siwa has a unique character, and we shouldn't destroy this character. Unfortunately, there's few investments has been made by investors, which is taking a city experience and applying that to Siwa, and that's not proper. So the best investments in hotels in Siwa is ecology, is to build houses and build buildings and hotels in the local style. And by the way, they sell better and they are more expensive. One of the most expensive hotels or ecology in Egypt, or maybe in North Africa, in Siwa. Not mentioning the name, but it's in Siwa. Built from local material, salt blocks, built from muds, built from palm logs, and palm reeds, no electricity there. And people are spending a fortune to go there. Famous people, like the
So you think that this is the kind of investment needed?
There's the kind of investment
big hotels
needed.
and five-star hotels?
No. So it's ecology hotels. Something which is to
preserve the nature of the place.
Oasis. Because if we lost this nature, there's no reason for people to go there. There is also another attraction in sea, which is hardly talked about, is the lakes. There is salt lakes. If you have been to the Dead Sea before, which is in Jordan, and so the Dead Sea, because of the salt there, you have these natural floating effects. So you don't have to make any energy actually to float, and that's a very unique experience if you have it yourself. In Siwa, we have the same thing. In Siwa lakes, the salt lakes, you can have the same thing, and you can have a salt treatment as well, because the salt is the salt accumulated around the lake, which helps greatly. One of the greatest resources of Siwa now is the salt accumulated from around the lake, and that is shipped overseas, by the way, and that's bring a very good income to the oasis.
I think also talking about Siwa, talking about the tourism in Siwa, that I've seen, for example, some of, as you mentioned, other places, the idea or the new kind of investments when it comes to the ecology system. And we used to promote this in tourism as well, that you used to sell the concept of just going to a place like such an area. But nowadays, how far are we working on this?
In Siwa in particular, or Egypt in general?
Yes, on this style, the ecology system.
There is a growing interest of that style, but it's still...
but are we using this? Because yes, there is a growing interest, but how far are we
it should be a national interest. It should be a national interest. We have a very famous designer worldwide, his name is Hassan Fathi, and he made wonderful projects in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, and his students are still around until today. His students are still doing amazing projects, like in places like Tunis Village and other places. And I think that something like that, it should be a national project. I'm saying that from my discussions from many foreigners who are visiting Egypt. When I ask them about what place they would like to choose, they would like to live or stay in, they prefer much the ecology built in a local style than the European style, even five-star hotels. And by the way, and that's normal, it is more expensive as well, that means that there is more income to the country this way.
Okay, Mr. Samir Abbass, Egyptologist, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And now you viewers will go for a short break. We'll be back with our second segment for today, so stay tuned.